Before we dive into this story of absolute financial betrayal and the nuclear revenge that followed, I want to hear from you in the comments. What is the most entitled thing a family member has ever done to you during the holidays? Have you ever had to cut someone off financially? Let me know down below. Then let's start. I was sitting at my desk, staring at a spreadsheet that was starting to blur in front of my eyes. It was December 23rd, and the office was practically empty. Most of my coworkers had already clocked out for the holidays, heading home to wrap presents or drink eggnog. I was the only one left, grinding away at some last-minute reports so I could secure my end-of-year bonus. That bonus was the final piece of the puzzle for me. For 3 years, I had been saving every single penny to put a down payment on a small house. I was so close I could taste it. Then, my phone buzzed against the hard wood of the desk. I ignored it at first, thinking it was just a spam email or a holiday greeting. But then it buzzed again. And again. A cold feeling washed over me. I flipped the phone over and saw a fraud alert notification from my bank. My heart hammered against my ribs. Authorization alert. $28,450 at the Royal Alpine Resort, Switzerland. I stopped breathing. That was impossible. That was nearly my entire savings account. My credit limit was high because I had excellent credit, but I never used it like that. My hands shook as I unlocked my phone. Before I could even call the bank, I saw a text from my mother, Brenda. Don't freak out. We decided to treat ourselves. You know how hard this year has been for me. Love you. I felt like I was going to throw up. I dialed her number immediately. It rang twice before she picked up, and the background noise was deafening. It sounded like the roar of jet engines. Mom, I choked out. What did you do? I just got an alert for $28,000. Oh, stop being such a Scrooge, Kieran. Her voice was light, dismissive, like I was complaining about a spilled drink. We took your emergency card from the drawer when we visited last week. We deserve a white Christmas. We're taking off now, talk in a week. The line went dead. I sat there in the silence of the empty office, realizing my own mother had just robbed me and fled the country. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. I couldn't process what had just happened. My emergency card was a high-limit credit card I kept in a locked drawer in my apartment. They must have snooped around when they came over for dinner last Sunday. My brother Tanner had brought his wife, Monica, and I remembered Tanner asking to use my bathroom for a long time. They had planned this. This wasn't an impulse decision, it was a heist. I quickly dialed the airline customer service number, my fingers trembling so badly I mistyped it twice. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. After 10 agonizing minutes of hold music, a representative came on the line. I gave her my information, pretending to be confirming the details of the booking. Yes, sir, the agent said cheerfully. I see the reservation here. 3 round-trip tickets, first-class suites for Brenda, Tanner, and Monica. It looks like they also purchased the extra baggage allowance in the pre-flight champagne package. First class. They didn't just steal my money, they were burning it. They were drinking champagne on my dime while I was eating instant noodles to save for a mortgage. While the agent was talking, a notification popped up on my family group chat. It was a selfie. There was Tanner, holding a glass of bubbly, with Monica leaning on his shoulder and my mom grinning like she had won the lottery. They were sitting in massive leather seats. The caption read, "Finally. Treating ourselves like royalty. No more budget holidays for us. #blessed #Swiss life." Rage, hot and blinding, filled my vision. They were mocking me. They knew I would see it. They were banking on the fact that I was the responsible one, the pushover who would never let his family get in trouble. They thought I would just pay the bill and cry about it later. They were wrong. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. The agent was still on the line, asking if there was anything else I needed. I looked at the timestamp on the group chat photo. They had posted it 10 minutes ago. That meant the plane was already in the air. They were over the Atlantic Ocean right now, sipping my champagne, laughing at how easily they had played me. I have a question about the fare rules, I said, my voice sounding strangely calm, almost robotic. Is this itinerary refundable? The agent typed for a moment. Well, sir, the outbound flight, the one they are currently on, is non-refundable because the travel has already commenced. However, the return leg is a fully flexible first-class ticket scheduled for January 2nd. That portion is fully refundable to the original form of payment. A dark idea formed in my mind. It was cold and sharp, just like the Swiss Alps they were flying toward. Okay, I said, cancel the return flights, all of them. The agent paused. Sir, you want to cancel the return trip for all 3 passengers? Yes, I said firmly. Cancel them immediately, and process the refund back to the credit card right now. All right, consider it done, she said. I have canceled the return leg. The funds of roughly $12,000 will be credited back to your account within 24 hours. I hung up the phone. A grim satisfaction settled in my chest. They were currently flying 30,000 feet in the air, heading toward one of the most expensive countries in the world, with absolutely no ticket home. They thought the trip was all paid for. They had no idea I had just stranded them in Europe. Canceling the flights was just the first step. I knew my family. If I left that credit card active, they would just buy new tickets the moment they realized what happened. Or worse, they would drain the remaining limit on luxury watches and ski gear. I had to cut off the supply line. I had to make sure that piece of plastic in my mother's purse was nothing more than a useless scrap of plastic. I dialed the number for my credit card company next. This was the tricky part. If I reported it as fraud, they would launch an investigation. My mother was an authorized user on an old account of mine, and even though she wasn't on this specific card, she might argue that I gave her permission. It could get messy. I didn't want messy. I wanted immediate destruction. Thank you for calling, the automated voice said. I navigated to the lost and stolen card menu. When the representative answered, I kept my story simple. Hi, I can't find my credit card, I lied smoothly. I think I might have dropped it somewhere, or maybe it got damaged in the wash. I need you to cancel the current number immediately and issue a new one. Certainly, sir, the representative said. I've gone ahead and deactivated the card ending in 4590. Any attempts to use it from this second forward will be declined. A new card with a new number will be mailed to your billing address in 5 to 7 business days. Perfect, I said, thank you. I hung up and leaned back in my chair. The trap was set. They were in the air, heading to a hotel that would require a credit card for a security deposit upon check-in. The card they were holding was now dead. They had no idea that the moment they landed, their luxury vacation was going to turn into a nightmare. For the next few hours, I couldn't focus on work. I went home to my empty apartment and paced around the living room. It was cold, and I hadn't put up a Christmas tree because I was trying to save money on electricity and decorations. The silence of the room usually didn't bother me, but tonight it felt heavy. I looked at the empty spot on the wall where I had taped a picture of the house I wanted to buy. That dream felt a million miles away now. I kept checking social media. I was glued to it. About 7 hours later, the updates started rolling in. They had landed. There was a video on Monica's story. It showed the snowy mountains of Zurich through the airport window. Then a video of them walking through the terminal, pushing carts full of designer luggage. Touchdown in paradise. The caption read, "Limo driver is waiting for us. Eat your heart out, haters." They were so arrogant. They really thought they had gotten away with it. I decided to poke the bear. I opened the family group chat and typed a message. Hope the flight was worth it. Enjoy the snow. I watched the read receipts. Tanner saw it, then Brenda, then Monica. A hard reaction appeared next to my message from Brenda. She thought I was accepting my defeat. She thought I was rolling over like a good little doormat. She had no clue that I was actually watching a train wreck in slow motion. They were walking toward the customs exit, and then they would head to the hotel. That was where the reality check was waiting for them. I calculated the time difference. It was late night in Switzerland when they would be arriving at the Royal Alpine Resort. I imagined the scene. The lobby would be full of marble and gold, smelling of pine and expensive perfume. My mother would walk up to the front desk in her fur coat, which she probably charged to my card too, and demand their suite. I sat on my couch with a cup of tea, waiting. I knew exactly what the receptionist would say. "Welcome, madam. May I have a credit card for incidentals and the security deposit?" Brenda would hand over my card with a smug smile. The receptionist would swipe it. Declined. Brenda would probably laugh, thinking it was a machine error. "Try it again, dear." Declined. That was the moment panic would start to set in. The hotel wasn't prepaid in full, only the deposit was. The remaining balance in the massive security hold for a suite of that size needed to be authorized upon arrival. Without a working card, the hotel policy was strict. No card, no room. My phone started ringing 20 minutes later. It was Brenda. I let it go to voicemail. Then Tanner called. I declined it. Then Monica. My phone was blowing up. They were standing in the lobby of a 5-star hotel in a foreign country, exhausted from a long flight, with a piece of plastic that was utterly useless. I took a sip of my tea. It tasted better than any champagne they had drank on the plane. The voicemail notification popped up. I played it on speakerphone so I could hear every detail. Kieran, pick up the phone. Brenda's voice was high-pitched and frantic. We're at the front desk and the card isn't working. The bank must have frozen it because we're abroad. You need to call them right now and authorize the charge. The receptionist is looking at us like we're criminals. Call me back instantly. I didn't call back. Instead, I sent a text to the group chat. I wanted to make sure they all saw it. I can't authorize anything. I reported the card lost this morning because I couldn't find it in my desk. I assumed I misplaced it. Since it was reported lost, that number is dead. The bank is mailing a new one to my apartment, but it won't be here for 5 to 7 days. I watched the typing bubbles appear and disappear. They were freaking out. You idiot, Tanner texted back. We are stuck in the lobby. We can't check in without a card. What are we supposed to do? Use your own money, I replied. I knew Tanner didn't have money. He worked a part-time job and spent everything on clothes to look rich. But he had a debit card with a small savings account. 10 minutes later, I got a notification from a mutual friend who followed Tanner's private account. Tanner had posted a rant about banking errors. Apparently, Tanner had to use his debit card to put down the deposit. It wiped out his entire checking account. He had zero cash left. They were in the room, but they were broke. Safe in the room, the family clearly decided to bury their heads in the sand. I knew their psychology perfectly. They probably told themselves, we're already here, let's just enjoy it and bully Kieran into fixing it tomorrow. They lacked the ability to think ahead. They operated on impulse and entitlement. An hour later, a new photo popped up on Instagram. They were in the suite. It was lavish, with a fireplace and a view of the Alps. On the table in front of them was a silver tray of room service, steaks, expensive wine, and desserts. I did the math in my head. That meal was easily $500. They were charging it to the room, assuming that Tanner's card would cover it or that I would eventually cave and wire them money. Then I saw the caption on Monica's post. She had taken a picture of a spoonful of caviar. Spending hubby's inheritance early. Who cares about budgets when you have family money? That shattered the last remnant of guilt I felt. Family money. It wasn't family money. It was my money. It was the money I sweated for while they sat around. I closed Instagram and opened my contacts. I scrolled down to Sloan. She was an old college friend who was now a ruthless corporate lawyer. I needed to know exactly where I stood legally. I wasn't just going to strand them, I was going to bury them. Sloan answered on the second ring. Merry Christmas Eve, Kieran. Shouldn't you be drinking eggnog? I need legal advice, I said, cutting straight to the chase. Hypothetically, if someone steals a credit card and charges $28,000, is that a felony? Sloan's tone shifted instantly. That's not hypothetical, is it? That's grand larceny. Depending on the state, that's serious jail time. Who did it? My mother and brother, I said. There was a long silence. Kieran, if you press charges, they will be arrested when they land. But you have to be willing to go through with it. You can't just threaten it. I'm willing, I said. Okay, Sloan said, but first, check everything else. If they stole the card, they might have accessed other things. She was right. I logged into my email and checked my deleted folder. I found a confirmation email for a luxury SUV rental in Zurich. They had used my frequent flyer account points to book it, and they used my card for the insurance. I logged into the rental car portal. I couldn't cancel the car because they already had the keys, but I could modify the booking. I went to the Insurance and Coverage section. I unticked the box for Full Comprehensive Coverage, and switched it to Decline All Coverage. If they scratched that car, if they got a dent, or if they crashed it on the icy Swiss roads, they would be personally liable for the entire cost of the vehicle. The next day was Christmas Eve. This was usually the time Brenda would send out a sappy text about family unity. Instead, my phone rang at 7 a.m. It was Tanner. You have to send money, he screamed. He sounded out of breath. We're at the ski lift. My card was declined for the lift tickets. The hotel put a hold on everything I had. We can't even ski. That sounds frustrating, I said, making coffee. Fix this, Kieran, he yelled. Mom is crying in the lobby. We came here to ski. I checked my accounts. Tanner, I said, my voice cold. You guys spent $28,000. That was my house down payment. I want it back. We'll pay you back later. Tanner shouted. Just unlock the funds. No, I said. Send me $28,000 by midnight tonight. If the money isn't in my account by midnight, I'm not lifting a finger to help you. In fact, things will get much worse. Tanner laughed. It was a nervous, incredulous laugh. You're bluffing. You won't strand your mother on Christmas. You don't have the guts. He hung up. He thought I was the same weak brother he used to bully in high school. He didn't realize that by stealing my future, he had killed the part of me that cared. An hour later, Brenda tried a different tactic. She didn't scream, she cried. She left a voicemail that was a masterclass in emotional manipulation. Kieran, honey, I know you're upset. But think about your grandmother. If she were alive, she would be so disappointed in you treating your family like this. Christmas is about forgiveness. I listened to the message, and my blood boiled. My grandmother was alive, but she was living in a state-run nursing facility that smelled like bleach and despair. Brenda had put her there 2 years ago, claiming there was no money in the family estate to pay for a nice private home. I sat there, realizing the truth. They had money. They always found money for vacations, for cars, for clothes. But when it came to Grandma, the well was dry. I made a decision right then. The refund from the canceled return flights was about $12,000. It wasn't enough to replace what they stole, but it was something. I logged into the nursing home's payment portal. I took the credit that had just hit my account from the airline and transferred every cent of it to Grandma's care account. I paid for upgrades to her room, better meals, and physical therapy for the next 6 months. Merry Christmas, Grandma, I whispered to the empty room. The time difference meant it was Christmas dinner time in Switzerland. I knew they had reservations at Le Summit, one of the most expensive restaurants in the resort. They had to eat, and they couldn't order room service because they weren't in the room. I waited. I knew what was coming. Around 2 p.m. my time, my phone rang. It was a Swiss number. I answered. Hello, is this Mr. Kieran? A man with a thick French accent spoke. He sounded angry. I am the manager of Le Summit. I have a family here who is trying to pay with a card in your name. It is declined. They say you will authorize it. I will not, I said clearly. That card is stolen. I have reported it to the bank. Do not accept payment from them. Stolen. The manager's voice dropped an octave. They have eaten 800 francs worth of food. They cannot pay. I could hear Brenda screaming in the background. Let me talk to him. That's between you and them, I told the manager. If they can't pay, you should probably call the police. I hung up. Later, I saw a post on a local Swiss community page. I had been searching the location tags. It was a photo of a woman looking very distressed handing over a luxury watch to a restaurant manager. Monica had to leave her Tag Heuer watch as collateral just so they could leave the restaurant without being arrested. I know you are enjoying the story so far. If you want to see exactly how Kieran brings the hammer down on his entitled family, please hit that like button right now. I'll wait 5 seconds for you to do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Now, let's see what happens when they try to go home. Christmas Day passed in a blur of silence for me. I ate a sandwich and watched movies, feeling a strange sense of peace. For them, it must have been hell. They had no money, they were humiliated, and they were stuck in a hotel room they couldn't afford to leave. But the real bomb was ticking. The return flight. It was now December 26th. Tanner, being the anxious one, must have decided to check their flight details. Maybe he wanted to change their seats or just reassure himself that they could escape this nightmare on January 2nd. I wasn't there to see it, but I can imagine it. He opens the airline app. He types in the confirmation code. Loading, error. No itinerary found. He probably refreshed it. He probably retyped the code. Error. Cancelled. I imagine the color draining from his face. I imagine the way his hands shook as he looked up at Brenda and Monica. The scream that followed must have echoed through the entire hotel floor. My phone rang. I put it on speaker. You canceled our flights. It was a chorus of 3 voices, all screaming at once. I didn't cancel your flights, I said calmly, taking a bite of my apple. I refunded my money. The tickets were bought with stolen funds. I recovered what I could. We are stranded, Brenda shrieked. Do you have any idea how much one-way tickets are this close to New Year's? They are $3,000 each. Wow, I said, that sounds expensive. Sounds like a you problem. You have to rebook them. Monica yelled. I have to be back at work on the 4th. I can't be stuck here. You should have thought about that before you drank my champagne, I said. You guys are adults. Surely you can figure out how to book a flight. Use your family money. We don't have any money. Tanner cried. You know we don't. Then I guess you better start walking, I said. It's a long swim across the Atlantic. The unity in the family began to fracture immediately. I could hear it over the phone before I hung up, but the text messages confirmed it. Monica was the first to crack. She sent me a DM on Instagram. Kieran, please. This was all Brenda's idea. She told us you said it was okay. She said you wanted to treat us. I didn't know she stole the card until we were at the airport. Please, you have to help me. Tanner is useless. He's crying in the bathroom. I looked at the message. It was a lie, partially. Monica was just as entitled as them. She had posted the caviar picture, after all. But she was also the weakest link. Interesting, I replied. If it was Brenda's idea, why were you the one posting about spending my inheritance? She didn't reply for a while. The seed of doubt was planted. They were stuck in a room together, broke, hungry, and scared. They would start turning on each other soon. While they were imploding in Switzerland, I had work to do back home. I drove over to my parents' house. I had a key, of course. Technically, I owned 50% of the house. My grandfather had left it to me and Brenda jointly, but I had let Brenda and my dad, before he passed, live there rent-free because they were family. I walked through the house. It was filled with new furniture, big screen TVs, and expensive gadgets. They claimed they were struggling, yet they lived like kings while I lived in a studio apartment. I sat down at the kitchen table and drafted a document. It was a notice to quit. Since there was no formal lease, they were technically tenants at will. But since they had stolen $28,000 from me, I decided to enforce my rights as a property owner. I taped the notice to the front door. Due to theft of funds and failure to pay shared property expenses, the co-owner requires the occupants to vacate the premises or buy out the remaining share within 30 days. It was a legal shot across the bow. They weren't just coming home to no money, they were coming home to a foreclosure of their lifestyle. Brenda, realizing that screaming at me wasn't working, decided to go public. She went to the nuclear option of social media. She posted a long, tearful status on Facebook. I never thought I would say this, but my own son has abandoned us. We are stranded in Switzerland with no food and no way home because Kieran canceled our tickets and stole our money. We are elderly and scared. Please, if anyone can help, we have started a GoFundMe to get home. The comments started rolling in instantly. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years were messaging me. How could you do this to your mother? You're a monster. Fix this right now. The GoFundMe raised about $200 in an hour. People loved a victim story. They didn't care about the truth. They just saw a crying mother. I knew I had to kill this narrative before it destroyed my reputation. I compiled my evidence. I took screenshots of the bank fraud alert showing the $28,000 charge. I took screenshots of the group chat where they mocked me with the champagne. I took a screenshot of Monica's spending hubby's inheritance post. And finally, I took a screenshot of the text message where I warned them not to go. I wrote a public post and tagged Brenda, Tanner, and Monica. Let's clear the air. My family stole $28,000 from my house savings to fund a luxury trip they couldn't afford. They didn't ask, they took. The cancellation was me recovering the stolen funds to pay for my grandmother's nursing home care, which Brenda stopped paying for. They aren't stranded because I'm cruel. They are stranded because they spent money that wasn't theirs. Here are the receipts. I hit post. The reaction was instant. The comments on Brenda's post stopped. Then, they started getting deleted. People who had donated to the GoFundMe started demanding refunds. The sad mother narrative crumbled under the weight of cold, hard facts. Within 2 hours, GoFundMe removed their campaign for violation of terms fraud. It was now day 4 of their vacation. The hotel system automatically attempted to charge the card on file for the mid-stay balance. This is standard procedure for luxury hotels to ensure the bill doesn't get too high. The charge failed. The hotel didn't mess around. When Brenda, Tanner, and Monica returned to their room after wandering around the free parts of the town, their key cards didn't work. A red light flashed on the lock. They went to the lobby. The manager informed them that until payment was secured, they were locked out. Their clothes, their toiletries, and, most importantly, their passports were locked inside the room. I got a text from Tanner. They locked us out. We are sitting in the lobby in our pajamas. Everyone is staring. Kieran, please. We are hungry. I felt a twinge of pity, but then I remembered the house I couldn't buy. I remembered the years of overtime. Ask Mom to sell her fur coat, I replied. They actually did it. Desperation is a powerful motivator. Brenda and Tanner found a high-end pawn shop in Zurich. They couldn't get their passports, but they had their accessories on them. Brenda had to sell her designer handbags. Monica had to sell her diamond earrings. They got absolutely fleeced. Pawn shops know when you are desperate. They probably got 10% of what the items were worth. But it was enough cash to pay the hotel bill up to that current moment. They paid the manager, got their passports, and grabbed their bags. They checked out immediately because they couldn't afford another night. Now they were homeless in Switzerland with their luggage, standing on the sidewalk in the freezing cold. I decided it was time to end the game, but I wanted one final twist. I wanted to see who they really were. I called them. They answered on the first ring, huddling together against the wind. I have a proposal, I said. Send the plane tickets. Brenda cried. She sounded broken. I don't have enough money for 3 tickets, I lied. But I have enough airline miles for 1 ticket home. Just one. Silence on the other end. I'm willing to book 1 seat on a flight leaving tonight, I said. But you guys have to decide who gets it. You have 10 minutes to tell me the name. If you don't pick, nobody goes. I hung up. I set a timer. I wasn't there, but Monica told me later what happened. It was like the Hunger Games. Brenda argued that she should go because she was the mother and she was frail. She wasn't. She said she needed to get home to manage the house. Tanner argued that he should go because he was the only one who could work and fix things, to get money to bring the others home. He claimed he was the golden child and deserved saving. Monica argued that she had a job she was going to lose. The argument escalated. Screaming turned to shoving. Tanner actually pushed Monica into a snowbank. Brenda tried to grab Monica's phone. A passerby saw the commotion, 3 Americans fighting over luggage in the snow, and called the police. The police arrived and separated them. They weren't arrested, but they were given a stern warning to quiet down. The 10 minutes were up. My phone rang. It was Tanner. We decided, Tanner said, his voice shaking but triumphant. I'm coming home. Mom and Monica will wait here, and I'll wire them money once I get back. Of course, Brenda, ever the enabler, had sided with her precious son. They were going to sacrifice Monica. So Tanner is the choice? I asked. Yes, Tanner said. Book it. Okay, I said. I'm booking the ticket now. I typed on my keyboard. I bought a one-way economy ticket. But I didn't put Tanner's name on it. Done, I said. I sent the boarding pass to the email. I heard the ping. Then I heard Tanner scream. Monica, he yelled. Why does it say Monica? Because, I said, Monica was the only one who apologized to me. She's the only one who admitted you guys were wrong. She leaves in 4 hours. Tanner, Brenda, good luck. Monica didn't hesitate. She grabbed her bag, flagged a taxi with the last of her cash, and left them there. She told me later she didn't even look back. Brenda and Tanner were truly alone now. They had no choice. They had to go to the U.S. Embassy. They had to admit they were indigent. The embassy helped them, but it wasn't free. They were issued emergency repatriation loans. This meant the U.S. government paid for their flight home, but they confiscated their passports upon arrival in the U.S. until the loan was repaid in full. It also destroyed their credit scores and put them on a federal list. Because the embassy flights aren't direct, they were put on a cargo-style transport plane. They had 4 layovers. They spent 3 nights sleeping on airport benches in random cities, eating vending machine crackers. It took them 4 days to get back to the United States. When a taxi finally dropped them off at the house, they looked 10 years older. They were dirty, exhausted, and defeated. Brenda walked up to the front door and put her key in the lock. It didn't turn. She jiggled it. Nothing. The door opened from the inside. I stood there, leaning against the frame. Behind me stood a woman in a suit, my realtor. Kieran, Brenda rasped. Why doesn't my key work? Because I changed the locks, I said. And since you guys have shown you have so much disposable income for Swiss vacations, I've decided to sell my half of the house. You have 30 days to buy me out, or we put the whole thing on the market. Brenda looked at the realtor, then at me. We can't buy you out. We have nothing. Then the house gets sold, I said. I've already moved your stuff into a storage unit. Here's the key to the unit. I tossed a single small key to Tanner. He fumbled and dropped it on the driveway. You can't do this, Tanner whispered. I just did, I said. You wanted a luxury life. Go earn it. I walked past them, got into my car, and drove away. I never looked back. I bought my own house 6 months later. Alone, and it was the most peaceful Christmas gift I ever gave myself. They thought they could steal my future, but they ended up losing their own. If you enjoyed this story of absolute justice, please hit that subscribe button right now. I have plenty more stories of revenge coming your way, and you don't want to miss them.